let's talk about books. Hi everyone, I'm back today to talk about the books that I have read recently. I've got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got through 9 books recently, and I'm just going to crack on so that it isn't a really long video, because I know people don't really like very long videos. So I'm going to start with the ones on the top. I'm going to group them together because this is a trilogy, and so I'm going to talk about them collectively without giving any spoilers. So this is the Winter Night trilogy. Now, I haven't got them in order. Let me just sort that out. So we've got the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. We've got The Bear and the Nightingale. We've got The Girl in the Tower, and a really beautiful, beautiful proof of The Winter of the Witch. And I love the cover of this. It's stunning. So I'm going to put them down because they're heavy. The Winter Night trilogy follows one girl called Vasya, and she is desperate to sort of make a difference in the world, and she just does not want to conform. It's a fantasy, and it is set in sort of medieval Russia, and the setting is all wintry and absolutely beautiful, and the writing style is just amazing. I think these are the books that you don't read fast. These are the books that you take a long time over, and I've been reading these steadily over the course of a couple of months, because like I say, the writing style is just so beautiful and literary and just so musical almost, and I really like the style of it. But like I say, it's not a book that you can rush through. So over the course of the 3 books, we follow Vasya from her journey through childhood right through into adulthood, and what she gets up to. And basically Vasya is a follower of the old ways of Russia. She interacts quite a lot with the spiritual world and embraces the folklore of Russia. But the world around Vasya is changing, and Catholicism is coming in, and everybody is sort of shunning the old ways, the old folklore ways, and Vasya thinks this is a terrible, terrible mistake, and lo and behold, things start to go wrong. Vasya is sort of a very feminist character. At one point she goes off and dresses like a man, and lives sort of in exile as a man, and we see that Vasya is not a girl to be tamed, and we follow her journey over the 3 books, and it's really interesting. The creatures of the folklore themselves are very entrenched within the pages, and we get to know them as characters, and I just think it's a really unique trilogy, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read is this one, The Driveway Has Two Sides. I loved this. This is a short novella, and it was part of the Fairlight Moderns collection, which I hauled and discussed a little while back. This one follows an East Coast island where Delilah has turned up in a house that shares a drive with her next door neighbour. And everybody on the island is watching her. She comes, and she's not quite like everyone else. She sort of makes a bit of a stir. She's out there gardening, she's got an elusive, mysterious boyfriend, and she's being watched by the man who lives next door. Not in a creepy way, that sounds really creepy, but she's being watched, and they have sort of unusual interaction. I really love this. I thought it was very evocative of sort of a very nice summery island. I could sort of just picture it with all of the nice flowers and the things that Delilah was getting up to in her garden, and I thought it was a very enjoyable read. The next book that I read is a children's book. It is Lola Rose by Jacqueline Wilson. Lola Rose follows the story of Lola Rose, who her parents have got a very tumultuous relationship. There's domestic violence going on. At one point, the domestic violence steps up to a notch where Lola Rose and her mum and her little brother go on the run, and this is their story. They start a whole new life. She picks a new name for herself. She picks Lola Rose, and she begins her life trying to sort of be the person that she thinks Lola Rose would be. I will say that this is very mature. I was not expecting some of it, and I didn't enjoy it too much. I really love Jacqueline Wilson books, but this one wasn't the best. I read this to my daughter, and there were a lot of choice words. There's a lot of emphasis on whether the mum thinks that she's fat or not, and I didn't think it was very body positive. And I know that she was trying to portray sort of a domestic violence setting, which children who've been through similar situations might be aware of. But for other children, using words within a children's book such as calling the mum a slag and finding boxes in the men's boxes in the sofa and things, I just thought it was a little bit more mature than I was expecting, so I didn't love Lola Rose. The next book that I didn't love is this one, Chucking It All by Max Scratchman, or is it Scratchman? No, it's Scratchman. This is a non-fiction set on the Scottish island of Orkney, and Max moved there in the 90s, and he talks very candidly about his experiences. The reason I didn't particularly love this is because I found Max to be quite a negative character. He just everybody that he met, he slated. He didn't have a nice word really to say about anybody, even the people that were supposedly his friends. And at first, for the first sort of few pages, it's a little bit funny, but then you notice that all he does is focus on the unattractiveness of the females, sort of rating them on where they rate on the attractiveness scale, hinting at the fact that he's having an affair even though he had his girlfriend within the book, and just, yeah, the whole, he's just not a nice character really, and I don't know if he was trying to be funny and it just didn't come across that way, but overall, nah. The next book that I didn't enjoy is this one, Dirty Old Man by Mal French. What can I say about this? This is another non-fiction about a girl who is groomed by an older man, and she ends up going off to live with him on her 16th birthday, I think, near enough, or a week after her 16th birthday or something. Around that sort of time, she ends up going off to live with him in his caravan. His family just wipe their hands of her, and she just lives this miserable life, and it's just, I don't know, I didn't find it very inspiring. A lot of the time I find books like this quite inspiring when people get through hard situations, but there was nothing really positive to say about this book. And yeah, I would give it a swerve. The final books that I read I'm going to group together because it comes in a trilogy, even though they're not, it's not a trilogy, I'm talking rubbish. It's just 3 books put together, a 3-book collection. So I read some Goosebumps, The Girl Who Cried Monster, Welcome to Camp Nightmare, and The Ghost Next Door. Now if you're familiar with R.L. Stine's Goosebumps books, you'll know that the sort of spooky tales for kids, they usually have a really rubbish ending. I will say that. Every single time there's sort of a twist at the end of the stories, and they're nearly always really bad and sort of ruin the story and make it not scary. And I always thought that it was perhaps purposefully done so that the story didn't actually scare the kids, because when you get to the end of it, it's a bit... So, I mean, The Girl Who Cried Monster and Welcome to Camp Nightmare had very sort of interesting endings. The Girl Who Cried Monster is a girl who sees monsters everywhere that she goes, tells everybody that she sees monsters, but one day she sees a real monster and no one believes her. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. A group of kids get sent off to a camp, things start going wrong, kids are disappearing, it's a nightmare. But The Ghost Next Door was pretty decent. It's about a ghost next door. And the ending was decent enough that it actually had me welling up, so yeah, I really enjoyed that one. The other 2 not so much, but I was reading them to my 6-year-old and she loved them, so I'm going to continue with my sort of Goosebumps throwbacks. So those are the books that I read this month. If you've read any of them, let me know. If you've got any recommendations, let me know, and yeah, if you're going to avoid any, let me know, and let me know what you've been reading this month, and I'll speak to you all soon.